Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. A quick info before we begin. Today's video has two stories and both of them have updates. Now let's get started with the first one. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Auxiliary Access. My 30 female boyfriend, 31 male of 2 years, won't split rent with me. I've lived at home for the last few years. After high school I moved away from home and only recently came back. I have a high salary, paid off all my debt, and have a solid nest egg. I've worked hard for where I am, as many people do. My boyfriend, Joel, and I are a failed one-night stand. It's often very hard to get through to him and he's really stubborn. He's never really totally independent of his parents outside of college. He lived with an ex after college, but she lived with her parents. So he's never really rented an apartment on his own besides living in campus housing, that sort of thing. Lately, I'm not sure we are compatible. I work really hard at work and my part-time master's class. He and his dad run a small contractor business. Joel is always saying how he wants to take it over and run it himself. Well, his dad had to tend to some family stuff and Joel didn't have any work for about 2 months. I'd ask him if he wanted to send applications in. No. We could put up an ad online so you'll get more business. No. He told me he only wants to work for people who have been referred to him. Meanwhile, I'm floating all my money, taking us out, among all the other stuff I have to do, and also entertain him almost every night. His jealousy can be intense. Then, the other day, I was talking about renting an apartment in a really nice part of the small city that we are close to. He outright refused to move there. Instead, he asked if I wanted to buy a house so we can flip it and resell it. When I told him no, he told me my rent could be going towards a mortgage. When I told him he could buy a house so he could flip it, he told me that he didn't have any money. I do so much for him and he still wants more. I've been telling him I've felt stretched to my limit and have been asking for help. But he doesn't help and just points fingers. And I guess I know we need to break up, but at this point, he's so familiar and when we are apart, I miss the way he feels and smells. A few months ago, I'd hear a certain love song and couldn't help but cry. I had so many feelings for him and now they are all just kind of gone. Neither of us is putting what we need into the relationship. I'm so ready to be out of my parents' house. Right now, he and I live about a 10-minute drive away from each other. If I moved, it would be 30 to 45 minutes. He has a few friends near us. I'm easy to get along with, but I don't like them. Even he laments the fact they are friends. But I'm a homebody and my friends are all spread out. Maybe I'm grasping for straws. I guess I try to work hard on things I care about. I know I'm still in love with him. Does anyone have a similar story and how it turned out? Good? Bad? Is there some sort of a wake-up call I can give him to get him to understand how frustrated I am? We have the same style of humor and I have a few images of him burnt into my memory. He's so supportive of my goals and is my cheerleader if I need it. Thinking of not being able to see his face light up is really tough on me. My mental health is kinda going downhill. Well, Opie, first of all, do not buy a house with him to try to flip it. I don't get the impression that this is the type of person that would put in the work that actually is needed to flip a house. I mean, considering he's got a construction business and he doesn't want to go out to get some clients, he just wants to be referred. Like, come on, you gotta work for it in the beginning at least. And second, it sounds like you guys have different goals about what you want in life. You want to be more independent, he kinda depends on his parents and doesn't want to move from his comfort zone. And based on all of this, it is perfectly understandable that you are frustrated and you feel like all your feelings for him are gone. Of course you still have some resembling feelings for him because you've been together for 2 years and he is an important person in your life, but sometimes it comes to a point where you just need to acknowledge that this relationship is not going to go any further and you can't stop putting your life on hold for somebody who doesn't want to move forward. So in summary, OP, you want something, you have a goal, and you're ready to take that next step. The person you're with doesn't want that. So you need to decide, what do you want? If you want to move forward, then you need to do that on your own. So if you can, just go ahead and rent that apartment that you want and see what happens next. Maybe that'll be the wake-up call you're wanting for him, or maybe it won't and that's the end of the relationship. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Lubelpbai says, you say he's supportive of your goals in one sentence, but spent the rest of your post talking about how he's stubborn, he's jealous, he's completely mooching off of you. He wants you to provide even more than you already are for him. He doesn't help when you ask for it and blames everyone and everything else for your feelings. It also sounds like you've already let him know that things need to change. He hasn't responded. Don't let familiarity rope you into a relationship that sounds completely unfulfilling. And OP responds, well, you certainly hit the nail on the head with that one. Miss Trixie says, you need to move into an apartment by yourself and do not let him come live there rent-free. This is ridiculous. This guy is 31 years old, living with his parents, no ambition, and mooching off his girlfriend. Look, I'm sure there are all kinds of nice, fun things about him, but there also appears to be a lot of screwed up things about him. Buy a house so we can flip it. Give me a break. I'm not telling you to break up with him, but I am telling you to build yourself an independent life and stop paying for everything. That's just nuts. He can't smell that good. Araiku says, you know what you need to do. He's 31. He's shown you who he is, and that's who he's always going to be. I don't recommend getting your own place till he's out of your life, because you know he'll slowly move himself into your place. He'll tell you he can change, and that will last a month. Look at your own life. What do you want? Family, stable life, someone who can be your equal? Also, if you have a hard time letting go, feels like it might be an issue from your past, at that point, maybe some therapy to help you out, or even if you don't have issues from the past, therapy always helps. Good luck! And OP responds, I'm actually on a call list for a therapist right now. I'm glad I was reminded. Huxley 00 says, sounds like he's never had to do much for himself. His dad gave him a job. When his dad wasn't around, he didn't work at all. His parents provided for him his whole life, and they still do, seemingly. He won't apply for other jobs because he would actually have to be responsible and accountable, which he isn't interested in. In some ways, you can't even blame him, as he's been held up by others his whole life. Anyway, you two obviously are very different and have very different goals. Get yourself a nice one-bedroom or studio in a cool loft in the city and start hitting online dating and have some fun. And Ethel Fleda says, this is a failure to launch boyfriend. Do you want to feel like this for the rest of your life? Because this is the best it is going to be. Get an apartment with a friend or roommate. This guy is not going to be a partner. Alright, well, the community was pretty clear about what they think regarding OP and her boyfriend, their relationship, and how he really isn't interested into moving further with her. Now, apart from the two comments that I read, OP did not respond to anything else, which means we move on straight to the update to see what happened next. But of course, before that, here is another one of my playlists for you guys to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with the update. In my previous post, I mentioned how he kept pushing into spending my own money on a house for us to flip. Granted, he has no savings or credit at all, let alone ever rented on his own. While I was trying to have a conversation with him about sharing an apartment, and he was hesitant to decide one way or another. He was always brushing it off, and he was the one always on the fence. Now, I'm not in a super rush to move out, so if he'd said, yeah, let's move, and still didn't put the effort in, then I'd know. In short, since he couldn't have an adult conversation about our future, I could be an adult without him. So that's what happened. I guess my aha moment was when he recently borrowed his parents' spare car. His mom uses it sometimes. She needed it in the morning and he didn't even answer the call, just complained and said something along the lines of, if she needed it, she should have told me last night. And I'm like, that's your mom and her car. That's certainly when I began questioning things, even though I should have earlier. I did what I could to talk to him in a way that would open up channels of communication. I changed the way I brought up things and how and when we talked. Like, we'd go out to see a movie and have dinner after, and I wanted to bring up something, not even negative, just to talk about us, and he got mad thinking I only wanted to go out so I could talk about it. And I've dated more reasonable people in my early 20s. It just wasn't worth it in the end. Anyway, here's how it happened. I sat down with Joel Saturday afternoon after we'd had lunch. It was just the two of us at the house, so it would be a great time to talk. As soon as I asked him if we could talk about something, he shut down. I told him I wanted to talk about the possibility of moving in together. He sat in silence for about 15 minutes with his arms folded over his chest and finally told me he didn't want to move to X city where the apartment is. I honestly wasn't sure why I'd put up with this attitude for so long. I told him there was no use to continue dating, and I had been trying to get him to open up and talk or even acknowledge my feelings for a long time. Even though it won't get through, I told him I was not going to stay in this area any longer, and it was a shame he couldn't open up about his feelings. We gathered his stuff together and he tried to reconcile. I think we can work on it. I don't want to lose you. And I told him no, no, no. And a few times I said, I've been telling you for months how I've been feeling and I have to break up with you for you to take it seriously, which ended in an even more resounding no. So, after our breakup, he went out Saturday night and went home with a girl who had slept with the majority of our friends. Good on him, I guess. It breaks my heart. Despite his place in life, I care about him a lot, and we've helped each other through some stuff. But I can't be in a relationship with someone who can't be an adult. Anyway, I know I'll be okay. He's the 30-year-old who has never rented his own apartment, not to mention has no credit. And today I called a realtor about viewing an apartment. I'll see it on Thursday. Good riddance. Well, OP, of course it sucks when a relationship ends, but in this case, I guess it's a good thing for you because this guy was never really gonna be up to what you actually wanted. I mean, his behavior alone after the breakup just tells you how mature he is. I mean, emotionally mature because he's a 31-year-old man. Anyway, OP, as you say, good riddance. Move into your apartment, be happy, and continue living your life. Take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. Now, let's move on to the next post that, like I said in the beginning, also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user doopity-doop-doop. My 24 female husband, 27 male, refuses to work after being laid off and it's getting ridiculous. Some background. My husband was laid off 5 months ago due to a lack of work. He was able to collect unemployment for a maximum of 26 weeks. I was injured at work in September of last year and received an L&I until the doctor deemed me healed, and now nanny an infant. We've never been well off, but we've never struggled to the point of near eviction and not eating. After he was laid off, he asked for a reprieve and told me he'd begin actively searching for work on the 1st of next month. I said, okay, whatever. He applied for the 3 jobs a week that unemployment required, but they were almost always jobs that he'd never qualified for. I held out hope. His unemployment ended and that seemed to have kicked his ass into gear because he immediately went to a staffing agency and was placed on a 3-week contract. It did not. His 3-week contract ended. He has not made an effort since. He hasn't called his recruiter. He hasn't applied for a single job. My job doesn't even cover rent and we have several other bills to pay on top of that. My financial aid for school doesn't come in again until October, so we still have bills for August and September to get through. And we already had to borrow money from family just to pay rent this month. He gets so huffy when I bring it up and it always turns into a fight when I'm the bad guy. He's never been like this in the 5 years that we've been together and I'm just so lost on what to do. How do I bring it up without starting a fight? Well, OP, this is definitely something that you have to address. Now, he might be having a bad time, he might be down, but he needs to get his ass in gear and do something. So what I would suggest is instead of focusing it as it's something that you have to go and do right now, It's something that needs to happen. And the goal is getting to the next month. So you come to him with the bills and say, look, man, I'm doing all I can to keep us afloat. You need to start pulling your weight. This is what we need to pay. What are we going to do? That way, it might click to him that he needs to go get a job and actually put something in so that you guys can stay afloat. It's a team after all, and you guys got to pull together. Now, once that is sorted, maybe you guys want to talk about why he's having so much trouble trying to get a job. Maybe he's depressed, like I said in the beginning. Maybe he just doesn't feel that he's in the right career. I don't know, but in the meantime, you guys need to get to the next month. Now, if he refuses to get a job and refuses to get any kind of help and just wants to hang out and do nothing else, then to me that would be a huge red flag. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Steve353 says, time to have a come to Jesus talk with him. Husband, we cannot afford our bills right now. You need to start looking for a job. Does he know what dire straits the finances are in? The fact that he's unwilling to even communicate with you on this issue is a huge red flag, and if he continues to do nothing about his job situation, it may be prudent to separate for the time being while he figures out if he wants to be a functioning adult again. And OP responds, he knows how bad our finances are. Yes, I've always taken care of the actual bill paying, but I always let him know exactly where we're at. Thank you for the advice though. I've been trying to avoid separation because it'll only put us in a worse spot if we stay together, but it is an option. Changer of Bits says, while being unemployed sucks, the fact that he's not even looking is a big effing deal, and him making you into the bad guy when you bring it up is just emotional abuse. I'm not sure what you can do if he just turns every discussion into a fight. And Mega Persecular says, he could be depressed and he should seek help, but he's an adult with a life and a partner and, has to pay bills. He is letting you down and has no interest in trying to help himself or you. Sit him down, show him numbers. Here's what's owed. Here's what you have to pay with it. It's not enough. He needs to make a real effort and get a job, any job. Alright, well, community agrees. OP needs to talk with her husband and shake him into reality or something. And even though OP doesn't want to separate, she does understand that it is an option for her. So now let's move on to the update to see what happened next and how the story ends. A few days after making the original post, I confronted my husband and explained exactly what bills we were behind on and how we were likely to lose our car and get evicted by the end of the next month if he didn't start working. Our car means everything to him, and we have nowhere to go if we lose our apartment, so that seemed to get him into gear. We didn't fight, he didn't get upset, there were no bad vibes. He asked my brother if they were looking for people where he works, Big Cheap Stores warehouse, and they are. He has an interview tomorrow morning and the manager said it's likely just a formality since he has more than enough experience in warehouses. He will probably start working this Thursday. Also, we decided that from now on, there will be a monthly sit-down to go over the budget and bills. His paycheck will go directly into our joint bank account, which he doesn't actually have access to his debit card for. Until the bills are paid off, he won't be seeing any of his money, and he understands that. It's not going to be easy, but something finally snapped and he seems to be doing much better. I'll admit that the numerous times I confronted him, I probably wasn't doing it in the nicest of ways. I was angry and irrational most times, which he fed off of. And I am partly to blame here because even though I did mention that we were struggling to pay bills, I was maintaining normality and acting like nothing was wrong. Over the last few weeks, I have been more verbal about just how much we are going downhill as the impeding deadlines loom. Still, I think his motivation was losing something he loved. I didn't want to threaten separation, but that was the next step. Instead, I threatened, legitimately, we're very behind on the car payment, his pride and joy. Now, we both know we're nowhere near safe yet, but he has continued to put in applications for places he qualifies for, even with the basic guarantee that he already has this job. I think that shows some serious change, and as someone mentioned in my other post, I think he was going through a bout of depression or even just a funk. Well, the funk has lifted and he has returned to the man I know and love. There's much less tension between us now also. Thank you all for the advice and thank goodness I didn't have to go through with temporary separation. Well, OP, I'm gonna call it a positive update. I don't know if it's happy yet because you guys aren't out of the woods just yet. Now, so far everything is positive, but I would just be wary about why he had this funk or bout of depression. Maybe he can talk to some professional to help him understand that better so it doesn't happen again, or if it does happen next time, you guys are prepared. But in the meantime, here's wishing you both all the best in the future, OP. Thank you so much for sharing and take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.